So we all know PlayStation, right? The gaming company of the tech company, Sony, that has done pretty well for themselves. From their launch, they have been first, second, and second. Although the Switch has been out for 3 more years, so it's because the Wii U sucks so bad, so it's kind of unfair to count in that same, but, you know. So yeah, they've had a pretty good history, never having been last in sales in the main line of consoles. Sorry, PS Vita, you will be missed. But now you're getting that weird new PS5 handheld thing that doesn't make any sense because you still need a PS5. What is the point of that thing, Sony? And I think a major contributor to all this was the exclusives they have had over the years. Now, all companies have to have exclusives. It's how you make people want to come to your console because you have this original new property and people want to go play that, but they can't play on whatever they have now. But I think PlayStation has been exponentially lucky or talented in this category as they have had many iconic franchises under their belt. But what makes a PlayStation exclusive so appealing to so many different people? Well, as consoles have advanced, the appealing aspects of many different games have changed as well. And I guess in every category of these new generation, PlayStation has just been appealing to most people. And obviously not all success comes from exclusives because now they're like a big brand, like they're known as PlayStation, but the way you get there originally is by having compelling exclusives to get your brand name out of there. But PlayStation has changed their formula a lot, and I think that makes their consoles so appealing to so many different people. From promoting the best graphics to cool innovations in their controllers to claiming they could store the most data in their games so you're going to get the most out of your games. And not to shit on Xbox, but like, I'm surprised they are as big a company as they are because they had the Kinect for the Xbox 360, which was really cool at the time, and Halo. Those are the two main like selling points I could think for people why they would ever want an Xbox a while ago. Now, does it sound like I'm glazing PlayStation a little bit? Yes, very much probably. But I'm just trying to emphasize the many elements that make them popular. And to get back on the rails, let's get back to talking about the actual subject of this video, the exclusives. I want to talk about what makes them so special and also discuss maybe in the modern state that we are if they need to change the PlayStation exclusive formula. I'll try not to be biased in this video. I just want to talk about my personal expressions on these games, which as I'm reading over this, that's exactly what bias means. What are you talking about, Scorch Isaac? And my fun, amazing times I've had with these games and also my goofy bad times I've had. So to start, I want to talk about how PlayStation exclusives have changed over the years, going through each console's notable history and exclusives. So to start, we need to discuss about the one that started it all. Alright, let's discuss the best PlayStation exclusive ever. The first one ever. The one you've all been waiting for. Crime Crackers! Wait, what? Yeah, so I forgot to mention, the Wikipedia list I'm looking at for this game has a very expansive and varied list. So it's time to mention not every exclusive for PlayStation is groundbreaking content. Like, do you really want me to talk about IQ Intelligent Cube? No, because what the fuck is IQ Intelligent Cube? So I want to go over the notable games and kind of get the general vibe from each generation. So the PlayStation 1, as for most early consoles or first consoles, is kind of the wild west of exclusives. Seriously, like Nintendo, PlayStation, they've all had like their first exclusives were kind of weird, and Xbox. Bad thing about Xbox is they didn't really get out of this phase. Most of the kind of games you can notice here are pretty random. MK3 is here, Twisted Metal, Ridge Racer, Tekken, Parappa the Rappa, Ace Combat 2, Time Crisis, Final Fantasy VII, Bomberman. You can see most of these games are quite different. You can go from being a crazy driver to a brutal fight to a terrorist, to being a rapping dog. Weird, but fun with all the variety. And how can we figure out the most iconic game in my eyes, the one that pops up in my brain when I think of PlayStation 1? Crash Bandicoot. If I was a child in 1996 and I saw this game on my TV, my mind would be fucking blown. You're telling me I can go left, right, and up and down? Holy shit. Now you may be asking, how could the PS1 do all these bigger console things? Because I think... Had the Saturn come out? Had the fucking... What's that console called? Sega Saturn had come out, that fucking shitty-ass console, and Sega had done the 32-bit on the Sega Genesis or whatever. So this wasn't, like, brand new, like the 32-bit era, but PlayStation was, like, the first one to be huge in that aspect because no one bought a fucking Sega Saturn. Well, after a failed partnership with Nintendo to make a CD add-on, Sony was so fucking pissed that they took what they knew from Nintendo and slapped it into their own console. And since CDs could hold way more data than cartridges and were cheaper to produce, developers liked making games for Sony since they could make their games bigger. So even though the Nintendo 64 was more powerful since it was 64-bit, since the PlayStation, which was only 32 bits, was so much more appealing for more developers, they went there and made their exclusives for PS1, which was the perfect storm for Sony because they got a bunch of franchises leaving Nintendo because they were so much harder to make for, and they can make whatever more of what they wanted. But even though these are like the Wild West of exclusives, I would still say these are all very iconic in their own right. Like, we can't just shit on the PS1. It had a bunch of good games on here, and it definitely propelled the PS1 into the stratosphere, which is why it sold like, I think it was 100 million plus. It's something crazy like that. And the streak even continued with the fucking Now, the PS2 was big. This thing is the highest selling video game console in history. It sold like 4 quadrillion units or something like that. So yeah, you know, this thing has some good games on it. And here, while still being kind of the Wild West, we more see the developers and franchises and companies that would later become infamous. Like, we would see their origins here on the PS2. Naughty Dog, after making Crash Bandicoots 1, 2, and 3, made Jak and Daxter, cementing themselves as the kings of platformers on PlayStation. Insomniac would arrive here with their Ratchet and Clank games. Sucker Punch, who made the Sly Cooper franchise, which is another super fun PlayStation platformer, and probably, in my opinion, the most creative. And besides those just like companies, there are a bunch of notable games to go alongside it. Kingdom Hearts is my favorite mess of a game franchise, and it all started here on the nice PS2. God of War 1 and 2, which are staples and would later become some of the best later PlayStation exclusives. And Tekken and Gran Turismo still stand very strong because they were both exclusives on the PS1 and they still stand strong now. So what made the PS2 so popular in the first place? I've genuinely got no idea. Google says it was the built-in DVD player, which, I mean, yeah, that's a selling point, but is it $150 million selling point? I don't know. I would say the exclusive factor is in there a decent bit. I think a matter of why this console was so popular was a matter of that no one really wanted the other ones from this generation. For some reason, people didn't want a GameCube, which might solely be because they launched it with Luigi's Mansion. Maybe that kind of turned some people off. They're like, this isn't Mario, so they didn't buy the GameCube. And while the Xbox, I think it sold more than the GameCube, it had Halo, that was a big exclusive, and then it had like again like a Wild West of exclusives, so it was still appealing, and it had Xbox Live and all that. But I think just familiarity in a brand, especially right here, because the PS2, everyone had a PS1, it now had a DVD player. So why not just buy a PS2? If you were a kid ready for Christmas and your parents sees that they can watch movies on this device, and there are games that you want to play on this device, it's a win-win for both sides, so why would you not want to buy it? Now here is the start of what we are today, the PlayStation 3. The PS3 was an interesting console, a console that was $1 bazillion at launch, which is boo. But then due to cheaper redesigns and more compelling exclusive, was turned around and beat the Xbox 360. So what were the PS3 exclusives? Well, here's where we're going to start getting into more storytelling and realistic graphics. With the advancements in graphics, the capabilities to do more were immense, so why not do more? Great examples are Naughty Dog's Uncharted series, which is in my top 3 PlayStation franchises, and Sucker Punch's Infamous series, along with Heavy Rain and Beyond Two Souls by Quantum Dream, which are my favorite, so bad it's good games, and shit like Kill 1-3, what is that? What is Kill 1-3? Kill 1-3. Oh, Killzone 3, gotcha. Killzone 3, which was literally advertised to be a beyond gorgeous video game. But we still got our goofy platformer titles like Ratchet & Clank, a Sly Cooper game not made by Sucker Punch, a big new series, Little Big Planet, which is a great addition, and my favorite one of them all, PlayStation All-Stars, which is a Smash clone with PlayStation characters. This console was stacked with good games, and I'm honestly probably forgetting a few as I go on, so Tell me if I missed any great PS3 exclusives. So I can see why the PS3 pulled back, because after it wasn't a gazillion dollars and still featured a Blu-ray player with all the amazing games, people were compelled by good word of mouth. Each of these games were regarded amazingly, and Uncharted 2 won the goddamn Game of the Year award, so yeah, people would like these games and be swayed to buy them. And obviously there's a huge game I haven't talked about, one that you all expected me to talk about when I was talking about the PS3, but I didn't yet. I know so many were pissed, but I'm so glad we can finally talk about Rochard. Now, did I do that joke again? Yes, I am very shameless. No, obviously, The Last of Us is one of the biggest video games of all time. The Last of Us was the first video game that tried to tell a dramatic story like a movie and succeeded. Yes, other games have obviously done this, including Naughty Dog's own Uncharted, but this is what a lot of people like to mark as the main one. This game made people feel something on top of a compelling gameplay loop. It's a, well, tiny bit overrated in my eyes. I still love this game, and it's amazing in every way. And it would influence the entire next generation of games on the... So the PS4 actually sucked for a while. It truly did not have a lot of exclusives that people loved. We had Bloodborne, which I love and a lot of people do love, but some people think it's too hard. So, pussies, by the way. And also, I didn't mention Demon's Souls on the PS3. Demon's Souls is cool. Except it's really not in a lot of ways. It's pretty amateur, but Bloodborne's cool. Until Dawn, which is, again, it's like a horror game. And some people aren't always down for horror games. It's another choice-making game, so... And a lot of re-releases were done on this console. The Nathan Drake Collection, God of War 3, The Last of Us Remastered, Heavy Rain, Beyond Two Souls. Lots of games from the PS3 being re-released, which, I don't know, I'm not always the biggest fan, especially when it was just the previous generation. This console is said to be amazing, but man, owning it from 2013 to 2015 seems pointless. Like, what? You had Bloodborne and Sackboy, baby, my favorite 2 combo meal. Because I know not one motherfucking person was sold on Knack. 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 But in 2016, we started getting something really special. We didn't start strong with the No Man's Sky situation 2016, but we did receive Ratchet & Clank this year. And while it's kind of a remake of the PS2, kind of not, it's original, has new guns, and it looks absolutely stunning, and it's a great new thing to have. This is what you should remake. You should remake games that can be remade now on this better hardware. And then Naughty Dog said, remember that last game that was super popular? Well, let's take a pre-existing action franchise we have, and let's just fucking... And this is where the Naughty Dog inspiration on the PS4 started. It started with themselves again. Uncharted was a goofy action franchise that was more fun than a super serious action story. But Uncharted 4 decides to explore Nathan Drake and the lust we all have towards old habits that you can't give up. It's a great character study and gave that emotional stride that other games would try to keep doing. Next year we received Horizon Zero Dawn, the first game that feels like a, in quotes, PlayStation game. And though this game is one I can't finish, it's not because it's bad, it's just kind of like it's a game I just for some reason I can't finish. But a lot of people do love it, and I respect everyone who does. I think the concept's really cool, just something that's not for me. Also, we got the Crash remake, so we seem to be getting great remakes and third-person action games. But then next year was the big boy year. Hold up, intermission. Sorry, I was literally recording this, and I thought of Infamous again. Like, I thought of the franchise. Infamous Second Son came out in 2014. I'm sorry for dissing 2014 so hard. There were games there, and Infamous Second Son is actually very similar to The Last of Us, so maybe that was kind of the start of the Uncharted thing, so maybe don't listen to what I say, but Infamous Second Son, good game. First, get that Quantum Dream garbage out of the... Oh. Wait, this one's actually pretty interesting and good. I mean, it's not subtle, but it's a cool concept. It's a good game. Okay, well, good. Everyone give a clap for Quantum Dream. But then we had Insomniac Spider-Man. Insomniac is our resident Ratchet & Clank and Spyro developers, so they seem very good at 3D platformers. So how the hell are they going to make a Spider-Man game? This game is super good. And I love all the mechanics, you know, everything feels so satisfying from like the punching, the kicking, web swinging, webbing people left, throwing them around. I love it so much. For superhero video games, this game is an unspoken fucking 15 out of 10 masterpiece because it is so good. This game is my favorite game ever, and it keeps up with that standard, you know, dramatic third-person PlayStation drama, but it does it in a unique way by having much more different. It's more zoomed out. It's much more like focused, you know, you're doing all this, you're doing all that. I love this game. I could talk about this game for like hours. Please don't mess up Spider-Man 2. Then that same year we received another masterpiece, God of War 4. This game is an amazing dramatic story, and I think this game cemented the Sony games as the dramatic third-person story games with varying gameplay, combat, and exploration. And that may have screwed us over, as in 2019 we got games that are not as good as the other ones. First, you got Death Stranding. Now, the whole Kojima story is very sad, and I'm glad he got to make another game, but man, this game is an interesting but ridiculous story and walking. You just fucking walk everywhere. Or drive a car that fucking flips at the slightest collision of a goddamn pebble. But overall, it's not like a terrible game. It's been like a 6 out of 10. It's fine. It's really interesting. So hey, there you go. And the world's cool. But then we also got... I hate this fucking game so much. People think this game is great, and I feel so bad because they have to force themselves to like this shitty bullshit, sorry, empty fucking world, worthless mechanics, fucking piece of garbage, fucking digital piece of... I tried to give this game another chance like a month ago because I played it once and I was like, alright, this isn't really me, I'm not really vibing with this. I played 6 hours, got to a... 6 hours, by the way, 6 hours, got to a mission and said, I fucking hate this game. It is so unbelievably boring, and it's kind of slapped to the face because the worst games we've had so far were like mediocre at best, but this game is terrible. It's got the terror story, you know, so the fact that we trust this formula now, it's kind of a slap in the face when we got Days Gone, like fucking... And justice for that IGN lady who knew what she was saying. Real hero, you do not deserve all the hate. But in 2020, when we were all goblins locked in our houses, we got 2 new great games. Yeah, I said great. First, we got Ghost of Tsushima, which is a game I did not get, and then I really liked it, but the same would not happen with Days Gone. I had to go back and play Ghost of Tsushima. That game gets really good after 6 hours. Days Gone does not get really good after 6 hours. And also shout out to my friend Malik. This is his favorite game ever. So he made me play it again. I think he came into my house saying like, put a gun up to my head or something. I don't know. He told me to play this game again. And then the second game is The Last of Us 2. A game that I would argue is the most decisive video game ever made. I think it's amazing. But man, this game causes a lot of controversy. But here you can see all the major games I mentioned feel like The Last of Us, including The Last of Us. The story, the camera, and sometimes even the same gameplay. And there are games outside the PlayStation that The Last of Us influenced. But while I think this formula is interesting, it can also be very boring. But we'll go over this after we talk about the... Now, the PS5 is still going on, so I won't spend forever, but we are, at this point in time, we are just kind of keeping up the same pace as the PS4, and more oftenly getting sequels to popular games on the PS4. We got the new Spider-Man, the re-release of Ghost of Tsushima, the director's cut version, God of War Ragnarok, fucking re-release of Last of Us. But also recently I've seen a resurgence in their 3D platformers like Sackboy or Astrobot, which is a great tech demo for the PS5, by the way. And I hope they continue down this path and feature multiple different kinds of exclusives, and not in the way Xbox does it. But yeah, I can't really comment on the PS side because, again, it isn't done yet. Also, please let Spider-Man 2 and Wolverine be good. I trust Insomniac, but I'm also a little scared. So, I've had to rewrite this segment like 3 times because the question does stand. What makes them special? When I originally wrote this, I said it felt like pieces of art and full-blown movies in a way. But most video games are like that. I can say that about Halo 1 from fucking 22 years ago. So, I had to sit at my desk and truly ask myself a question. What makes PlayStation exclusives special, because there is definitely an element of speciality in these games. And I've already talked about how the evolution of the exclusives, so I really should have come to a conclusion by now. But I just haven't. You can't say, like, the groundbreaking stuff, like the stories and the third-person camera, because let me tell you something. Those kinds of things have been around forever. Maybe not together, but they've always been around. Ever heard of a game called Mass Effect? Yeah, it came out the same year as Uncharted, and that's practically the same as fucking God of War. Why'd I say God of War? It's similar like Uncharted. And also, you don't need to account for the fact that PlayStation dates back to 1996. So there are so many different kinds of exclusives. When I originally thought of this video, I was solely going to talk about the PS4 and on, because those are the majority of the games I have played and what I know more about. But then upon writing this, I thought it'd be cool to show the evolution of their games in general, which, not a good idea. Because that makes the general question of this video so much harder, because it's a much more broad statement. You can talk specifically about a generation and a half of consoles because they have the same games, but when you take into conclusion everything that this entire company has done, it's a lot harder to say. It's honestly impossible for me. I can't find something. I assume it is possible in a manner, like someone could easily find this, but I can't. And I'm not the person to be able to say what's special about the earlier games because I was not alive for the PS1, PS2. So I have no reason to plant my foot and let other people know way better. Am I rambling? This is kind of dumb. I don't know. Let me try to explain this analogy through a thought process. Take this problem right here. X equals 10. Seems simple, but that's the entire question or solution. And let's let the X represent the speciality and the 10 represent the games. X could be 2.5 times 4, 5 times 10, 1 times 10. Just like the speciality is something that I can't discern. So am I lying to you in the title of this video? Yes. But to not leave you on a disappointed note, let me try to make up some bullshit to give this question some relevance. I think the special element is hard. Now let me explain myself. Every game nowadays made by AAA devs tends to be hit or miss. And yes, well, you know, PlayStation has had some misses. That's not what I'm trying to say. See, when Activision makes Call of Duty 89, it doesn't have heart per se. It has a money-sucking factor to suck away money from little kids. But when you play a PlayStation game, I feel like it has love and soul put into it. Take Uncharted 4. This is an obvious passion project from Naughty Dog. A character they have been developing for 9 years comes to a beautiful end. No major bugs or glitches at launch, it's just a heartfelt story. Or even take a game I hate, like Days Gone. As much as I dislike this game, I can admit, it has heart in it. Does that account for its shitty story or bland gameplay? No. But this game obviously wasn't forcefully made. People wanted to make this. Look at the original Twisted Metal. You're telling me no one wanted to make this? You're telling me this was forced on by a big company? And that's what I'm mainly just trying to say. In a world where a studio like Arcane is forced to make bad games by greedy devs and execs, PlayStation always kind of felt like they had heart towards their games. They, to the best of my knowledge, don't have microtransactions or anything of the sorts besides DLC. They are just single-player games made by people who like making games. Now again, this is a very flimsy response. This could be said about many game devs, especially indie devs who just love making games. But it's the best conclusion I've come to because it seems like a franchise where you can have AAA size studios and still come out as something like a passion project. And while it more kind of revolves around modern day PlayStation, I think it can also connect to an older kind of PlayStation. Sorry all this derailed, it became more of an evolution video, but you know, I wanted to try something else, and I thought it'd be a much more interesting topic. It would not be one of my videos if I wasn't fucking crazy. And also, there's one more question I want to ask. Okay, so from now on, we are solely talking about the PS4 on. So if you aren't interested, then damn. So after the massive success of The Last of Us, obviously they kept up that formula. And while that has worked a lot, we are getting to modern day, and two things are kind of happening. First off, they're running out of IP because they kind of just been reusing the same things for a bit. And second, people are starting to get a little stale of this formula. Not saying people don't still like these games, just some people aren't kind of hoping for a slight switch up. If there's one thing I want them to do is go back to 3D platformers, as that genre is more than the Mario genre, but Sony used to challenge that. Like, we're kind of letting it be the Mario genre, but Sony used to have games like Spyro, Crash, Jak and Daxter, even more games. Those are just the big ones I'm thinking of. They're all excellent games that easily gave Mario a run for his money. And I think Sony showed with Astrobot that they can still make a badass 3D platformer. I think they should just try to switch it up and try new stuff. I said that earlier. I think they should have maybe 3 subsections and make exclusives around those subsections. Give us a first-person kind of intense story game, give us a third-person intense kind of story game, give us more 3D platformers, have subsections, don't just keep doing the same formula. No, I don't think they should change in the matter that their games are very polished, they're usually very well ready for launch. I just think that they need to switch it up in that matter. But there are always just a lot of flaws nowadays. There's so many cutscenes and everything explaining, and that's just because, it had a lot of cutscenes and explained a lot of things. The Last of Us. And I'm not trying to say I hate these games because they redo this formula. If anything, this video has proven otherwise. I love these games. But I'm kind of saying this formula might be starting to harm the genre as a whole. Some companies are just trying to carbon copy these elements, and it doesn't always work out. And I don't think that they should influence other devs into thinking this is what we want. This is all we want. We just want 3D, third-person games, and we're looking down an intense story with 6 hours of cutscenes. Because the last thing I need is a certain type of product to flood our entire senses and ruin the original idea of said property. That's why I do think we should switch it up with some genres, but still do some more third-person games, just, again, for the third time, switch it up. So this video was a blabber fest, but I feel I got the general point around, and I just want to say, all these games are very special, but there is an essence of how not everything lasts. Things will fade, so you might just need to start doing different things, but there always is an essence of speciality to these things. Things and people need to change, and no matter how special they are, whether it be a single person or a giant company, people and things change. Now, will they care? No, because I'm a dude with 40 subscribers, and they are a giant multi-million-dollar company. But you know what? I'll keep on hoping, and maybe one day we will receive a change. Maybe we'll see some different stuff and all that. But no matter what happens, these games are always very special, and I love most of them. And I love the matter of fact that we keep getting quality, well-done games. And I gotta appreciate them in that right. And I'm also grateful that we will never receive Days Gone 2.